Good morning, my name is Lorenzo A, and today I am answering the question of, to what extent did ancient knowledge of astronomy and the Earth's electromagnetic spectrum influence the design of ancient stone constructions? My resolution to this question is knowledge of the former influenced the design of ancient stone structures to a great extent in hopes to take their best aspects and utilize them to benefit the societies they are placed in. Before anything, it is very important to disembody widely held misconceptions among academic communities. These misconceptions being the assumption that ancient stone structures have no other purpose than that of a spiritual one. And this is not unreasonable. It can be found all throughout history to the modern day that people very easily form personal and spiritual connections to locations and structures. This can be seen with the poem Looking for the Gulf Motel. The author nostalgically reminisces on a motel that his family would vacation to as a child. And it is clear in the poem that he has a very personal and almost spiritual connection to this location. Now, knowing this, the claim of spirituality is not unreasonable. Where it becomes unreasonable is assuming that is the only purpose of ancient stone structures. This claim is ill-advised when considering the copious amounts of effort and resources going into these structures, especially for this time. And in regards to these factors, they are comparable to hydroponic dams. This dam is holding back thousands of pounds of water, and thousands of pounds of earth needs to be cleaved from the face of the planet before the structure can even be built. And beyond that, building that is no small feat. If one were to look at this structure and assume that its purpose was only spiritual, they would be regarded as an imbecile. No society, no matter what time, will put this much effort and resources into something that does not have a secular purpose. I digress. The Earth has a naturally occurring electromagnetic spectrum due to its rotation and a solid focus of iron at the center. This is the Becker-Hagens map, established in 1983, peer-reviewed, still accepted today. This is illustrating the main focal points and main subterranean currents of the Earth's electromagnetic spectrum. But there are sublevels in between these dots and lines, which megalithic stone structures can utilize. For example, these are megaliths used in Avebury stone circle. Notice their oblong vertical orientation to the ground. This is so that they can focus the subterranean current from the Earth to the top and create a low frequency field. The reason for this is when crop seeds are exposed to this field, they have a higher dexterity and higher yield, as proven by John Burke's experiments, who is the founder of seed technologies. And this is not merely speculative. These stones were quarried from over 40 miles away from the site of this circle. And this shows that past information from past societies influenced the builders to focus on these stones from a quarry 40 miles away because they have a higher concentration of magnetite, which aids in creating the low frequency field. They are familiar with the knowledge and take steps to implement it so that they can reach their goal in the best way possible. Another example of this is the Giza pyramids. The Giza pyramids have a similar profile to the megalithic stones. They have a wide base and a focused top. And this combined with the interior hallways that are very large and hollow, as you can see here, 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 and here, and other undiscovered hallways that we do not have access to, the frequency is allowed to resonate within these hallways and provides a location for the seeds to be exposed and achieving the desired effect of higher dexterity and higher yield. Yet another example are Native American earthen mounds. It can be found in historical accounts that Native Americans systemically brought their seeds to the top of these mounds to quote-unquote bless their seeds. But it was not a blessing, it was an exposure, because the information and familiarity of the Earth's natural energy effect on seeds and what it could do to them has diffused across many cultures, regions, and time periods, ranging from the ancient British Isles to the Egyptian society and very recent Native American societies in reference to larger world history. And the influence can be seen in each example. But the correlation of stone structures to ancient knowledge does not end with just the electromagnetic spectrum. It has a very strong correlation to astronomy. As you can see here, this is part of the Stonehenge, and at this very light point is the sun rising in the middle of one of the many rectangular openings of the Stonehenge, which are peppered through the whole design. This is known as a significant position. When the sun is in this position with this space, it can indicate multiple things, such as a solstice, an equinox, or an upcoming eclipse. This is essentially a giant analog astronomical computer. There are further correlations with the lunar cycle as well. As the moon takes 25.93 days in between each full moon. And in this outer circle of the Stonehenge, there are 29.5 monoliths to represent the 29.53 days between each full moon. The moon between each extreme rising and setting takes 19 years in its entire cycle. In the inner horseshoe, it's hard to see here, but in the inner horseshoe below this one, there are 19 stones to represent those years. Furthermore, the entirety of the Stonehenge is oriented towards the rising of the sun. And when this evidence is compiled and correlated together, as said by famous thinker Bob Dylan, the answer is in the wind. It's clear when you disembody the claims I mentioned previously that they are only for spiritual reasons. Now, there are pros and greater applications in this research. The pros of this are that it is very ambitious and on the cusp of current assumptions about ancient stone structures. And when this is taken into account, the greater application of this is that modern technology can be advanced if there is an understanding of ancient knowledge and constructive design, which can further our perspectives that we have been previously closed off to as a society due to the misconceptions I mentioned earlier. Which brings me to my limitations and cons. A giant limitation of the research is that research is hard to find. Through all of history, each new emperor has burned down everything before himself. And because of this, it is hard to find reliable accounts of why these structures were erected. And also because of the bias in academic societies towards these claims that they could be for something other than spiritual purposes, not many people are willing to delve the resources and time into proving something like my resolution. And a con of this is that it is a tinfoil hat subject. Many people who try to prove my resolution, including myself, are considered conspirators of magical claims and fallacious claims. But as I mentioned previously, if someone were to consider a hydroponic dam spiritual, they would be regarded as an imbecile. And this is a clear line of reasoning. But this line of reasoning is not applied to ancient structures for whatever reason, because we as a society assume that they are very simplistic and do not have the capability, when in reality they are very heavily influenced by advanced knowledge. Thank you. What are your questions?
You're good. All right, I got two questions for you, Lorenzo. First up, what evidence did you gather that you didn't use, and then why'd you choose not to use it?
One piece of evidence that I gathered was the Karnak of France. This is a field of megaliths that is very heavily related to the lunar cycle, just as the Stonehenge is. It has over 100 megaliths in it, and each of them has a very significant position to the moon. And there was a lot of time spent in ancient cultures to develop this, but I could not use it, quite frankly, because if I had presented that, I would have gone over the time limit.
Okay. If you had more time, not in a presentation, but I'm talking about to research, what more research would you have conducted on this issue?
Can I think about the question for a second?
Yeah. What more would you have looked at?
If I had more time to research the question, I would most likely search for more ancient texts or primary sources, because as I said before, it is very hard to find these things, because whenever new power comes into play in ancient cultures, they always burn down, or quite literally burn down everything before them, making primary sources very hard to come by when researching a topic like this.